Hi, I'm Cain, and today I'm going to help bust the fat myth for you and tell you why fats are so important in our diets. And what better location to do this from than the beach, where people are either happy because they don't have too much of it, or to a greater or lesser extent unhappy about it because they've got a bit too much. And of course you have those who are happy just the way they are. Now the truth is that as the low-fat generation, we've really been cheated out of a really important food group. Our bodies need fat. Fat is one of the main components of our cell membranes. You can think of the membrane as the cell's skin, as it were. Just like yours, it lets waste out and nutrients in. We also need fats for the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. And obviously, with a shortage of these, it leads to deficiencies and various illnesses. We also need fat for our brain. Our brain is our fat-richest organ, which is at least 60% fat. We also need fat for the production of hormones, and for warmth, for padding, and of course it also adds taste to our food, and it gives you a feeling of fullness. So if you don't have enough fat in your diet, you'll be reaching for other foods to make you feel full, and normally that's carbohydrates. A bit more about that later on. Now, what happens if we lack fat? And actually this is the root cause, or part of the root cause of many of the illnesses that we have today, be they mental or physical. If we lack fats, as I said earlier on, our brain's the fat-richest organ. It can lead to depression, anxiety, ADHD. A lack of fat can also lead to an increase in certain cancers, to heart disease, even to high cholesterol, because it basically unbalances the good and the bad cholesterol in our bodies. Now, what kind of fats do we want to eat? And here you're thinking about healthy fats like extra virgin olive oil, avocados, walnuts, walnut oil, one of my favorites, coconut oil, and also if you're not vegan or vegetarian, fish oil, for example. Especially favor the omega-3 oils. The kind of fats that you don't want to be eating are trans fats, and those are the ones from vegetable oils and used for frying, especially in packaged processed foods. Now, I'm anticipating your next question here, that you can understand why fats are so important in our diets, but doesn't fat make us fat? And the simple answer to that is that no, it doesn't. What does make us fat is the kind of fat that you're eating, for example, the trans fats that I mentioned a minute ago, and also sugars and simple carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates such as refined white flour, for example, in bread, biscuit, cakes, that actually transforms or turns into sugar in our bodies. Now, in days of old, our ancestors would, for example, find a berry bush or an antelope or something, and they would basically eat what they had at that time because food wasn't so abundant. So our bodies are designed to hold on to and store sugar. And as we have evolved and we now do have an abundance of food, our bodies still work in the same way that they used to, which means that if we eat a lot of sugar, our body is storing the sugar. So what happens today is that we actually have an abundance of food. We're malnourished through eating too much, actually. And our bodies still store this sugar as a source of energy. So this leads to an imbalance in our insulin levels, which is constantly, working in spikes and dips in our energy levels, trying to manage the sugar in our bloodstream by storing it into our cells. So that's one of the reasons that we get fat, because all of this is stored in fat cells. So there you have it. Fat is actually good for you, and the right kinds of fats, and that the reason we put on weight is not actually the fat that we're eating, if we're eating the right kinds.